Good afternoon. Episode of Fantasy Debate with Women, brought to you by Fantasy Books and the Original Hooters. I am Sam Holt, joined as always by the lovely Tate. Tate, how is 2021 treating you so far?
Not too bad. This is the way. We are going to be talking a lot of topics today. But as of right now, baby Kennedy stayed all the way up until midnight. So she rung in the new year with Kelly and myself. So we are all good over here at the Tate household. Happy New Year! Oh my gosh! Happy New Year to you and yours, Samantha Holt.
Thank you, you as well, and everyone tuning in. Happy New Year! It is so great. New year that you guys have stuck with us all season long, and the following has been fantastic. We really appreciate the support. Now, I know there might be a couple of you out there that still have fantasy questions. Start sits for tomorrow because your league goes till week 17. I am sorry, as I just looked at a lot of inactives, and there are a lot of them. But if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat, and Tate and I will do our absolute best to make sure that we get you a proper lineup for tomorrow. But mostly, we just want to talk about recapping this year. Obviously, you know, everything has been crazy the entire year, but for fantasy purposes specifically, Tate, was there, like, let's pick one of our leagues and maybe the thing that we took away most from that one league from this year.
Investing high draft capital in rookie running backs. That is probably the biggest lesson learned from the 2020 season for me. And I know it's been a weird year, right? Because we had COVID all over the place. We had, pretty much virtual off-season training programs and stuff like that. So it's understandable why the rookies probably didn't hit the ground running, in particular, whether it be receivers or running backs. But yeah, I mean, investing high draft capital, someone like Jonathan Taylor. I mean, imagine if Marlon Mack would have stayed healthy the entire year.
Yeah,
he had a slow start to the season and almost was droppable in a ton of leagues. So yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the bigger lessons I learned. Is we have a bunch of folks actually jumping in live. I mean,
I love it.
We have no fantasy football. I mean, unless you're playing in a wacky Week 17 league.
But we've got lots of people joining us. Tim Bria saying, guess it's back again. Thank you so much.
Tater's back. Tell a friend.
Babino Rosa says that he learned he should have traded away CMC way back in the season. I think there's a lot of us that felt that way as well.
Oh, man. Rough.
But Dried Ocean over here won 2 out of 3 of his leagues. Let's go, bud. Glad for you. Victor J is wishing us all a happy new year. Appreciate you, Victor, so much. Will Jenkins, as always, what up, fam? Thank you, Will. I mean, he's like our ride or die. Will Jenkins. He's fantastic. It's Fragger joining us, as always, on Twitch. We really appreciate you. He says, thank you guys for an amazing year of fantasy football. Even though I lost, you guys helped a lot. Well, we try our best. Can't win them all. I lost in a championship league myself, and this is a situation. If I can have the floor for a moment on this. I won this league last year, and I snuck into the playoffs last year and managed to win with a 7-6 team and crushed the number 1 team in the league. He was at 12-1 or something. So this year I'm at 7-6 again and sneaking in the playoffs. And then right before the championship matchup, I beat the best team in the league that also was nearly undefeated. And then rematch with the rival from last year in the championship.
Oh.
So I lost because Derrick Henry and other people, because he has everyone. And we switched to Superflex this season. So there was a lot of reasons I lost. I'd rather lose by 40, which is what I did lose by, than lose by like 0.1.
Right.
So to me, at least for a championship, like if I'm going to lose, like I don't care if I lose like by a lot. But if it's a situation where you have to go back and forth, if I just started Cole Beasley, if I just started Robert Woods, that kind of a deal, it was what it was. But what I learned from that league was, man, Superflex, that second QB spot is not a throwaway position because you need to have both of those top tier guys.
That's what I was kind of preaching when we talked a lot about even the Scott Fish Bowl, which I know you got to partake in for the first time this season. Having a super flex league, it changes the dynamic of your draft board like drastically. If you don't get, I always like to go quarterback heavy have 2 by the first 4 rounds. If you want to go back to back, quarterbacks, then that's totally fine. But when it comes to the strategy in a super flex league, it looks so different than you do in your traditional 1 quarterback league. I personally like it. I'm going to find myself playing quite a few more super flex leagues moving forward.
Yeah, me too. I feel like a lot of leagues that I joined, probably mostly as a result of COVID, all of us kind of reaching out saying, "Hey, want to be in a league? Want to be in a league?" Started up a couple new dynasty ones. Superflex is, I mean, think it brings a whole new aspect to the game that I find so much more fun. This league that I was in, that we just switched the rules to being Superflex. It's a dynasty league we've had for, I think, 8 or 9 years now. So we obviously all have our people that we keep year to year. So it's not a redraft situation where I could have grabbed a different quarterback. I kind of settled, figured, hey, I've got Watson. That's fine for now. Goff, I can throw in there. I picked up Fitzpatrick in the draft just to have an extra guy because I didn't know how that was going to shape out. And I think if the year had shaped out any differently for Miami, it would have been a different story because Fitzmagic was magical when he played. However, going into next year, I am going to be gunning hard to really get a top QB2 in that position.
It's really interesting, that whole dynamic when it comes to the Miami quarterback position. And we could have a whole different separate conversation about Tua.
A whole podcast about just Miami and the moves that they do.
Let's not try to dissect all of the nuances and the in and outs. But no, I mean, the quarterback position, I think in a super flex league, unless you're just presented with some sort of ridiculous value or situation, going quarterback early is something I feel most comfortable with. And it does help that I drafted Aaron Rodgers in pretty much every Superflex league as my quarterback too. That also worked out quite well. But yeah. I mean, Superflex leagues are definitely ones that I find to be very fun moving forward. And speaking of fun, fantasy punishments, as Tim Briapix mentions, you play in leagues, a ton of leagues. Do you have a fantasy punishment for the last place finisher?
Well, in the league that I've been in the longest, our biggest punishment is the Sacco Trophy itself. It is a giant. It's a giant dildo on top of a trophy platform, and it says something like "You are the biggest disappointment." It's obnoxious. The fact that people have to keep this on their mantle is horrible, and I'm very grateful to have never, been given or have received this horrible trophy. But besides that, every year we kind of pick a different punishment year to year. One year someone had to carry it around while we went for like a night out drinking. They had to go up to the bar and order drinks while holding it, which I think was probably the worst one. But yeah, every year is a little different for the actual punishment. But the trophy itself.
Add the word dildo to something I did not expect to hear on the fantasy debate with Sam Tate today. That word was not one that I was predicting was going to be transcribed for.
Hey, you're talking about, this is the landscape that we are in when it comes to fantasy football. My friends are ridiculous, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in having ridiculous friends.
Well, probably ridiculous punishments. So actually, Tim, if you have a ridiculous punishment for the last place finisher, go ahead and let us know, because we would love to go ahead and continue to talk about that. Dry Ocean says, my top 5 breakout players video. And for 2020, one I missed on was Kenyon Drake. Drake he picked it up a little bit towards the end of the season, but was not anywhere near what I was hoping for in that air raid offense, and the fact they traded away David Johnson. I missed on him, but I hit on Josh Allen. I said that Josh Allen was my quarterback that I expected to take that next jump into fantasy stardom, the elite level quarterbacks. And Josh Allen, for the most part, was phenomenal. I mean, he was right there in the conversation with Rodgers, Mahomes, Russell Wilson. He's moved into that elite category for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember in preseason too when you and I were going back and forth on Josh Allen, and I felt like there was a lot of things that he needed to clean up in order to get to that position. I didn't know that he could do that in this year, but I guess I also did not fully count on Stephon Diggs being just as dominant as he has been, and Cole Beasley just being as dominant as he's been too, is so consistent for them. And I feel like those are a combo of receivers that are going to go much higher in next year's draft. I can see those guys being guys that are very heavily sought after.
In this offense, we didn't even mention John Brown's name. And they really haven't had that great or consistent of a running game. I still feel like this Bills offense could get a little bit better moving forward. So if you're a Josh Allen shareholder for Dynasty, you got to be very encouraged about moving into 2021 and beyond.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think, talking about Stephon Diggs and these other receivers, pairings that I think that we see a lot of success with. Someone that I wanted to get shares of and I missed out every single time was Justin Jefferson. And he's someone that I knew going into this season, he was going to be a top receiver in fantasy because of the way that they run that offense. And that number 2 receiver there opposite Adam Thielen, it was going to have success. And Justin Jefferson definitely capitalized on that. He was probably one of my top rookies, and we were talking about going into this season, but I just really loved him as being a fixture in that system. And I think that also goes to, when you're drafting these rookie players and you see what system they go in, some of these guys have all the talent in the world and then they're just not going to work in the system. But Jefferson really lucked out.
I don't know if I would even say that he lucked out. I mean, I always kind of had him high up on my board. I think I had Justin Jefferson, if I remember correctly, as my number 2 wide receiver on my big dynasty board for the wide receiver position heading into this season, only behind CeeDee Lamb, which the jury is still out with CeeDee Lamb because Dak Prescott got hurt.
Yeah.
But I had him above Jerry Jeudy, and Jefferson has thrived in his rookie season, shown like the I would call the bravado of a veteran. I mean, in his rookie season. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head with Justin Jefferson. If you got him in a bunch of leagues, in particular in Dynasty or Keeper,
I missed out on him. I tried to get him everywhere I could, and I think I unfortunately just talked him up too much to the people I was in leagues with, and they just all knew to grab him. So I'm just bummed that I didn't get him. I know. I'm going to try and trade to get him this year. We'll see if I can get him.
Oh, you're going to have to pay top dollar though. No.
I mean, I'll have to pay, but that's the other thing though in Dynasty. You're looking at the values of these players, and I think that we get stingy about our values because we're very personable on these players. Like for me, I have Aaron Jones, and I feel like he's going to have to be ripped away from me from my cold dead hands. Like I don't want to ever give up Aaron Jones, but he has a shelf life, and there is a very clear shelf life for running backs. And so there has to be a moment where when to move on from a situation. I feel like he's someone I have extended my contract on at least, I think, 1 or 2 more years, and then I'll be moving on from him. So for me, I think also another lesson learned for 2020 is people that I paid really high for this season, I'm regretting because like I had Julio Jones, didn't really work out the way I wanted him to. There's some of these names that I should have waited on and been okay with just sliding in a Cole Beasley behind my Tyreek Hill that I already had because it would have been more successful.
Right. That makes sense. So when it comes to moving to 2021 and beyond, we actually do have, let's take a quick question because Mr. Ilias Giftopoulos must be playing in one of those wacky ass leagues that you're playing in week 17. So David Montgomery or Ty Montgomery, also Kittle or Waller. I mean, what do you think about Week 17 leagues? Like leagues that involve that. I just feel like there's so many starters and good teams and good offenses that are resting because they're already clinched up their playoff spot.
Yeah, and that's the problem I have with them because you build the team over the course of the season as well as you're adding people off waivers and you're making trades. So you're building this team up to this point, and by playoffs, you should be just playing that team in theory. Sometimes they have trade deadlines and all this stuff. There's different league situations. But I feel like once you get to this point, you want to be playing your best guys. And if you're playing into week 17, you're not going to have your best guys because they're a part of a team that's going for the playoffs. They're going to get rested. If I'm looking at, all of my other leagues that I'm still looking at the status of all these players, there's just red O's all across the board. It makes it so hard to be able to put together the best matchup week to week. Now, for Ilias, I mean, I know that Ty Montgomery situation is very different, as you and I were just talking off air with the whole running back situation there for the Saints. Everyone is out, as Alvin Kamara was a close contact and is on the reserve COVID list. So between the two of them, do you feel like you'd rather start Ty Montgomery just because he's the guy? There's nobody else? Or would you rather have David Montgomery, who might be on a pitch count?
Yeah, I'm still going David Montgomery. Like, the Bears got to get a win in order to ensure that they're going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, if David Montgomery's got enough left in the tank, really the one way that I want to attack this Packers defense is to run the football. And Montgomery was actually, despite the Bears kind of laying an egg against the Packers when they previously faced off earlier this season, Montgomery was kind of the one bright spot of the entire offense.
He was. He had a lot of volume there, and this league, I'm looking.
Volume wasn't very high. It was just the fact that like he was incredibly efficient, popped a big run, like he was productive despite the Bears, being inept across the board. I think it was Trubisky's first game back under center, but point is, I've seen enough to trust David Montgomery. Who knows what Sean Payton's going to dial up with Ty Montgomery and some of the practice squad running backs that are probably getting promoted to the active roster.
Absolutely. I'd rather have the thing that I know is going to work than anything else. So for me, I agree. I would go with David Montgomery there for you in your running back spot there, Ilias. And then between Kittle and Waller, because that was the second half of the question.
Right. I'm going Waller. No offense to Kittle. He played and actually was effective on a pitch count himself. But Darren Waller, I know he's good to go. And, John Gruden's just going to pepper him with targets if the situation calls for it.
He's so constantly and consistently peppered with targets, especially in the red zone, that I feel like you have to just keep going with Waller there. So I agree there. I would go Montgomery and Waller for you there, Ilias. Hopefully you can bring home that championship. But Vina Rose is saying, what QB this year had a big season do you think will still be risky next year?
I think that, and I don't like to bang on the drum because, we were just reaping his praises and I was right about something for occasions. But Josh Allen probably, because Josh Allen, even though I like his outlook moving forward, if you're going to draft him in like where you would expect him to finish as the quarterback 1, 2, or 3, that means you're probably taking him in what, Sam? The second round, third round, something like that?
I would say at least the third, yeah.
Yeah, in a 2 QB league, you're probably taking him, maybe even the late first, second.
Sure. Well, because the thing I don't think that's going to change with Josh Allen is you're still going to have that rushing floor with him. And we've been talking about how the league has shifted and, with more and more mobile quarterbacks in the league, it's going to be scarce to have the typical quarterback that just sits back and throws and just has the cannon for an arm and isn't a mobile quarterback. The league is changing. Times are changing, and I think there's a lot of value in these quarterbacks. So I just feel like with those points that you can get, you're obviously going to value someone like Josh Allen much more than others.
You're just paying top dollar is the thing. That's my biggest thing when it comes to Josh Allen. Next year, you're going to have to pay top dollar for him. Do I think he's as much of a sure thing as someone like, Patrick Mahomes or, Deshaun Watson or something like that? Not yet. He's not, to me, he's not there yet, but as a fantasy asset, yeah. I mean, I think that he's still going to be valuable. Do I see that there's the road that there could be some regression for Josh Allen in the passing game? Probably a little bit. Kind of like think back to Cam Newton's 2015 MVP year.
Yeah.
I think that the perfect storm kind of has taken place for Josh Allen to have a breakout season. I just think that there's probably a little bit of regression in his future in 2021. I just look at other guys that had breakout years, like Kyler Murray, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't see Kyler Murray regressing. I actually see him getting better. He's been battling through injuries. Absolutely.
He's someone that I look forward to seeing the sophomore year of. Absolutely, most definitely. Justin Herbert as well. I think that a lot of these guys, they definitely have some tightening up to do in different areas. But I mean, Justin Herbert's also one of those rookies that was coming in that we saw where he landed. And in Dynasty in particular, you're just like, oh, this guy's going to not have any value for it's going to take some time. He's got so much work he needs to do. But he just broke out. And for those teams that were lucky enough to grab him in Dynasty, I mean, they're just, super, super grateful.
I mean, you're rubbing your hands together.
I know. It's like, oh, yes. That is a franchise. That's a dynasty quarterback that you salivate over, just the potential. And, the more and more weapons they get for him, the better protected he is, the more he's going to succeed. And the more he's going to grow, too, in that system. Just to have that support, I think, was fantastic. It's just also looking back, it just really sucked for Tyrod Taylor just to go out that way for the season, and his job is lost.
Well, we always kind of knew that he was a bridge quarterback.
He was, but, you hoped for him to have a little bit more. I mean, Tyrod still had some, I feel like he had something left in the tank still.
I think that Tyrod is going to be the quarterback no matter where he goes. That is like the bridge to the next guy. That's just his role.
He's
carved carved out in the National Football League. But yeah, when it comes to Justin Herbert, as you would put it,
Justin Herbert.
Yeah. I'm not even trying. You guys do that. That's not my thing. But he definitely surprised me. We haven't even seen him use his athleticism that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's somebody that's capable of putting up, gaudy rushing totals, but just really hasn't had to call on that card or really had to use that aspect of his game, which is actually very, very, very encouraging moving forward, because he's beaten people between the ears and he's beaten people with his arm. And he did it. He did it really a fantastic job. And you talk about guy that's going to be able to get easy completions on a regular basis. He's got the most unappreciated 7-Eleven version of always open 24/7 at wide receiver in Keenan Allen, and one of the best pass catching backs in the league in Austin Eckler. I think the arrow, that's why I didn't mention his name, because I think he's actually going to have a follow-up sophomore year that, is going to be fantasy relevant and even could sneak into the top 5.
Absolutely. I know, I agree with that one for sure. He's someone that I will try and get a couple more shares than I did this year of him, and that's for sure. Tyler joining us this morning. What's up, Tyler? He's saying, Sam and Tater, glad to see you guys. Good to see you, Tyler. Twitter was a buzz yesterday. I don't know if you were on it at all.
A little bit, yeah.
It was a lot of craziness happening.
For 2021.
It's always fun when, crazy things
Be more active on social media.
Be more active. I mean, for me, one of my resolutions is to get outside more, just to, because I got a bunch of equipment so I can go paddleboarding more often this year. So that's a goal of mine, just to get out more. But Dave 4565 is joining us, and Dave won the fantasy league with the help of Rowdy's guy. Good
Buckey.
to know. Love it. Absolutely love that. We got this question for you, Ilias, and then we got this one from Victor J's. Heartbreak losing by 1.44 points to the Buck and Listeners League Championship. Damn it, Claypool and Deontay Johnson just needed one more catch. I'm sorry, Victor. That sucks. You were so close. And it sucks when you're close by like a catch.
You want to know what's even worse is, Victor Jace, my man, poor bastard. Claypool dropped a touchdown. Like right on the goal line. All he needed to do was catch the damn thing, and you probably get your 1.44 points. But, he definitely could have fallen into the end zone. Oh, man. It just – if those two didn't drop passes as much as they did in their rookie seasons, more so Deontay Johnson, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, man. There's nothing I can say to go ahead and make you feel better about losing the ship, the Bucs.
No. But there's always next year. We can say that much.
Yes.
And then we got this one from Dried Ocean. Sam, I was in a 7-6 this year in 5th place, 3rd in points, but 1st in points against. I beat the 1st team and the 3rd team in the playoffs. I was in the ship against the 6th team. Talk about 2020. That's just how these things go. Like this year was absolutely crazy for so many reasons. But I want to get to this one from Tim Bria. I remember this now. We were talking a preseason about punishments, and I do remember this one. Tim said this year, their league, the loser has to drink their own urine. I remember this because we were talking about what you should try and eat to prepare for this. So, and then next year, the punishment is to eat a ghost pepper. Well, that's horrible on its own. But I know, just drink tons and tons of water. Drink a gallon of water. Literally, until the day that you're supposed to do it, start to increase your water until you're at a gallon of water a day, because then it's basically just going to be water. Easy.
I mean, yeah, that's one way to prep for it.
You have to do this. You have to train.
Tim,
I haven't done it, but I'm going to guess.
How the hell did you and your league mates settle on, drinking your own piss as the league punishment? I want to know how this was like. Was this brought up at a round table at the bar? Did you guys talk about this when you're in the men's room? Like, hey, it'd be funny if we had to drink our own piss.
It sounds like, you're approaching last call of the evening at a bar, and it's one of those nights where, you've got Ubers lined up, and so you don't have to worry about anything. You're just drinking to just have fun with your friends. So it's probably one of those last thoughts that you have before you don't remember anything. And then it's just, wouldn't it be funny if, and then someone writes it down the next morning, they're like, oh, I guess we decided that. Yeah, I guess we're going to do that. So you don't just take it back. But that is brutal. He does have a real question for us, however. He says, other than CMC, who I think is the number 1 pick in the draft, who are you taking first?
I mean, I think that Dalvin Cook is probably the guy that comes to mind next. Taekwon Barkley, as much as I believe that he's still a first round value to me,
Absolutely,
regardless of coming off of an ACL injury. But I wish him a speedy recovery, and knock on wood that nothing like that happens to him again, because we're all being robbed of some amazing highlights from what is, I think, a generational talent at running back. But yeah, I mean, Dalvin Cook is really the guy that comes to mind. I mean, as much as I've seen some just amazing stuff from Devontae Adams, I will say in a Superflex league, though, Tim, Mahomes is actually the guy that I would take at 101. I know that may not be popular to take him over CMC or Dalvin Cook, but I just think that Mahomes is just he's the next guy.
Yeah, he's your league winner in a super flex situation. And I mean, we were just talking about obviously the value of these high level QBs into QB formats, and you do yourself a disservice by not taking QBs early in those formats. Sorry, my cat is playing with one of my trophies over here. I don't know.
Oh yeah, is that one of your fantasy trophies?
Yeah, so that's the league that I have with all my friends. We have an awards show every year. And so we do separate awards outside of the main award. So best trader of the year, best waiver wire pickup, best waiver wire owner. So that's the person that was most on the waivers and picking up the best players. So the best value pick in the waiver wire, best rookie, best kept rookie, because we have to do keepers. There's a lot of different awards.
So I was going to say, I mean, is it something like, do you watch The Office?
It's like the Dundies, yeah.
I was going to say the Dundies. I mean,
just like
do you guys have like an MC, like a Dundies MC type thing?
No, it's normally a red carpet event. Actually, this last year, because of COVID, we couldn't do it, so it had to be done over Zoom. But we normally get all fully dressed up to the nines and do a red carpet. We have one of those POP things, the big displays that you can walk in front of and take pictures that we designed with logos. Yours truly designed with logos, so that we could have a full type of Oscar moment for football. Just because, what else are you going to do when you're waiting for football season to start again?
Which we're pretty much already in waiting mode. It sucks. Oh man, I kind of want to I'm curious if any of our listeners that are still tuning in live here, or if anybody's catching this as far as like on SoundCloud or in the audio version of it after the fact. I'm interested if anybody would want to do a playoff draft format, like a playoff league, where you have to have some. Be able to look into the crystal ball, some prognostication. I
mean, would it be better to do it guillotine style league for the playoffs?
I mean, I was going to just say you draft your team, and those players, obviously, once their team loses, they're out. So it's like, if you want to try to go ahead and go with Mahomes, or go Chiefs heavy or something like that, you can go with that style because you think they're going to go to the Super Bowl and get 3 games in. I'm interested to see if we could do something like that, because now there's 14 teams that are going to be playing in the league or in the playoffs. So I think we could do a fantasy playoff league if anybody's actually interested. Just curious.
Yeah, we'll see if there's a format that allows us to do that, because I'm definitely down to do it. We've got this one from Tim Bria saying, is Kelsey a first rounder in a 10-team league?
I believe so. In 10-team, because the rosters are so limited that you can find other quality options at running back, at wide receiver, at quarterback as well, if you're in a 1 QB league or something like that for a 10-teamer. Kelsey gives you that. He's that much better and consistent of an option than everybody else at tight end. And that. I love George Kittle, but he's proven to be a little bit injury prone. Plus, we don't know what their quarterback situation is moving forward. And every other tight end, I mean, you think Darren Waller, I mean, there's a sizable gap between Kelsey and everybody else.
I agree. I feel like as someone that won with Kelsey last year, boy, do I miss him this year. I mean, he is really just such a league-winning talent, and the volume that he gets with Kansas City is just unmatched. So I feel like, Kelsey would be a first-rounder for me in a 10-team league format. But then outside of him, I feel like it's quite a drop-off. And then I would say one other lesson learned going from 2020 into next year would be, unless you're in a tight end premium league situation and you're in at least a standard 12-teamer, I'm waiting on that position as late as I possibly can.
If I can get Kelsey in the second round, I'll still take it.
Yeah, but outside of that, I'm waiting.
Or even late first. I mean, there's a world where I think, because really I think Devontae Adams is the wide receiver I want to own as much as Tyreek Hill has been great. DeAndre Hopkins. I've got Devontae Adams at the top of my board. So, I mean, it's man. Now I'm already thinking 2021 drafts. I want. Can we do a draft?
Is it too soon to draft for next year?
Can we do a draft 8 months in advance?
It might just be, hey, Tate, if you find some format that's doing mock drafts right now, I'll do a mock draft with you happily.
This is why I do Dynasty. I
know, because then you can keep talking about it all year long. That's why Dynasty is great, because then you get to start thinking about the rookies for next year, and we can get into those next. But I wanted to get to a couple of these questions really quick. J Alfano 7, thank you so much for tuning in. He says, hey all, I was lucky enough to beat Kamara in week 15 and won the championship in week 16. But how unlucky can you be to have faced him for the championship game? I feel like they were garbage points.
I don't know how unlucky. I haven't had an experience that unlucky where I ran into somebody who scored 6 touchdowns in a playoff game, much less a championship week game. I mean, like you said, there's times where you can feel upset about you losing a fantasy championship. Like if you made the wrong start and you lost by a couple points because of a decision you made that was within your power. But more than likely, if you played against Alvin Kamara in week 16, you lost. It's just. He scored 50 in a standard on his own. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I was sitting there watching the game. I was like, man, I had Kamara in the league and I was already eliminated. I'm like, where the hell was something like this all damn season?
I think the saddest part for me in one league was the guy that had him had just missed the playoffs. So he was playing in the losers bracket. He's like, my team was designed to win in playoff situations. Like, it just didn't meet the right before.
That sucks. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, it was brutal. But I think that if he had gotten in, I might have ended up having to play him. So I'm kind of grateful. But I stuck around just a little bit longer to get that second place. Isn't it sad too when you're like ranking places? Like, I never get excited to win second because technically you lost to get it.
I mean, the consolation is that you actually win money in most scenarios, unless you're in a winner take all type league. But normally it still sucks because you're not like, I can't say I won the championship. It's like,
no, that's what you want to say.
I got a monetary, congratulations for finishing second. But yes, it's like, you don't have those bragging rights. And I play to win. I'm competitive. So, it doesn't do shit for me.
No, it sucks. We've got this one from Tim Bria. Do you guys do fantasy basketball? Because I'm trying it out this year. I did fantasy basketball a while ago and then I stopped doing it. And then I joined another league this year with the Fantasy Football Lord. He started like a analyst's fantasy basketball league. And I haven't checked on it. But that's the thing with basketball that I always mess up every year because it's not like football. You can't just check it once a week and be like, oh, okay, I got this. You have to keep checking it every single day.
Yeah, Tim, I don't mess with fantasy basketball. I don't mess with fantasy baseball because a lot of it has to, like, you have to check it on a almost daily basis, and in particular with the NBA, man, it irks me that if you're investing in a veteran superstar, that they could just randomly get a day off for quote unquote load management. I can't stand that shit.
Yeah, the load management's annoying, or if they, ding their finger or whatever, they can be out for one game, but they're not out the whole week, and then you get them back in. And then if you see on whenever you're going to reset your lineup for the week, oh, okay, well they're dinged up, and then they're out the one game that you set them out, but they're back the whole week, and you just miss out on those points. So I don't know. I invited that back into my nightmare.
That's why I don't like it. It's too much. It's too much management. It's like, to me, it's too much monitoring. It's not fun. It's like a job, and I don't want a job outside of a job that I already have. So no, I don't mess with it.
Yeah, no, I know. It's super annoying. JL Fun also says, I have done fantasy playoffs. Pick players from the playoffs teams remaining. You keep those players up until your player is eliminated. No ads, no waivers. I think I'm down for that. That would be super fun.
You have to manually keep track. Like, I mean, I know this is hard for people to wrap their mind around, but back in the day before everything was actually, kept digitally. You actually had to just look through the newspaper or whatever and actually track out your own fantasy points.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
I don't mind doing it because I think it would be fun. But
it would be fun, but that's hard, and I'm bad at math. So.
Well, then I guess I would have. That means that I would have to sign up to keeping track of the points. So I'm open to doing it. I'm open to doing it if we have enough people that are interested in doing a fantasy debate, football playoffs, fantasy league. So
yeah,
let us know this week.
Yeah, guys, hit us up on Twitter. Derek is at dtater4 on Twitter, and I'm at Samantha R. Holt. So if you guys want us to do a playoffs league, definitely down to do it. And this one from Butta Love, which I totally get. He says, I'm sorry, but fantasy football is 10% skill, 90% luck. Manager of one of the teams in my league made 0 lineup changes all year and came in 3rd. That happens.
Shake my head, and I'm going to remove the 4-letter explicative. Butta Love, I get it, man. And there is some truth to that. Some folks just don't pay attention. They pick a random allotment of players they just have a good feeling about, and the shit works out for them. So I've had it happen against me. It sucks because I put a ton of research into this, and random shit happens, man. I get it. It sucks.
It is, but I mean, it's the nature of the sport, I mean, it's fantasy football. So obviously we're daydreaming that we're going to be putting together the amazing team that's going to outscore all other teams. So it starts off, in the ether of whatever it could be. And then we just see where the chips fall. And I think, I'd still rather do fantasy football than any other type of gambling, because honestly, like when I go to Vegas or I try and sit on the blackjack table, that's all just madness to me. I would rather play fantasy football.
See, I think there's a method to the madness, though, because you're only playing against a dealer and they have rules. So
I would rather drink. I would rather drink than lose my money.
See, I actually like blackjack, but I will say prop bets are the only other thing that I really like, because generally we're sitting here talking about fantasy football, right? We're predicting whether someone's going to have a good day, yardage total wise, based on matchups. You're already kind of computing that type of outcome when you're trying to make starter set decisions. So why not, if you see a favorable line, then and you can predict the game flow. I think I've made a decent amount of money this year from prop bets. And speaking of Monkey Knife Fight, if you haven't done so, go to Monkey Knife Fight for some prop bets for Week 17 and even for the NFL playoffs. They do all sports. Use the promo code FOCUSED. It's actually really, really, really good. I've had a lot of fun. And if you are someone that pays attention to box scores and stat lines and trends and injury reports, I mean, shit, I think it bodes well, and it's an easy way to make money.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like, at least for this year's playoffs, I'm going to try and do a lot more prop bets. They're just something are just super fun. They're so easy. And, it's just one extra way to feel like you're participating in it when it feels like football is over, but we do still have the whole playoffs to enjoy. So absolutely love doing.
There is no off season.
There is no off season. There is no off season. This one from Greg Calvert. Hey, how are you guys? Happy New Year. Thank you, Greg, for tuning in.
G-Man. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year to you. Will Jenkins says, the only league I made the playoffs in, I ran into Kamara in the ship. Oh man, I am sorry for that. That's brutal. He said, I had Mostert, Eckler, and McCaffrey in that league too, so I'm still proud of myself. Yes, you should be proud, because I mean, just to make it to the championship is awesome. It just sucks that that's the cards you were dealt.
Mostert was a tough card to be dealt because he didn't have a season-ending injury, so he kind of strung you along. He'd get healthy. He'd have a couple good games. And you're like, oh, my God, I got myself a top 15 running back moving forward. Then, boom, he's out again. He was a tough one all year. And McCaffrey, man, down the stretch, McCaffrey was someone that felt like it's like somebody you went on a date with, and it was like this magical experience. You're excited for what comes next. There's so much potential. They're beautiful sitting across the table, and then you just get strung along with text message after text message, cancellation, postponement on the next date. It's like shit. You waited, and nothing ever came of it. That was just the 2020 version of Christian McCaffrey this year.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just such a tease this year. It was awful. Can't have that.
Tease is the word I was looking for.
Christian McCaffrey was the tease of 2020 in your fantasy leagues. And yeah, it was brutal. I had a couple leagues that I was so grateful to get him in the first round. Like I got the first or second pick, and either he fell to me with the second pick in the first, or I snuck and grabbed him at the first, and I was just so excited, and then crash and burn. It was brutal. But there's always next year. He'll come back strong. He'll be all right. Then we got this one from Tim Bria. Where do you guys see Cowboys running backs in the future? Because Pollard is getting good. That's a great question.
You know, the kids do a lot of touchdown dances involving this shit, like I think it's called twin gritties or something like that. But anyway, point is, I'm looking forward, and Pollard looks great, right? Like to me, he looks like the more explosive back. Like he looks better than Zeke. I get that Zeke has the pedigree. Zeke is still someone that can create yards after contact and move the pile. But to me, Pollard fits today's modern NFL. And if you got Dak Prescott coming back healthy, who was throwing the ball all over the yard, and you can, of course, whatever, you want to dissect it and say, oh, well, they were playing from behind, softer defenses. The man was still productive, very productive.
Yeah.
And the offense playing at a high level when he got hurt. I still think that Zeke is probably a late first round pick, if not to me, he's probably more mid-second. I know that sounds nuts.
I don't think he's going to fall there, though. I feel like Zeke is still going to go in the top 5 of any draft next year. Just because he's Zeke. That's where I don't value him there. I'm with you. I just don't think that's where he's realistically going to go in a lot of these drafts. I don't think that between now and when people start drafting next year, he's truly going to fall that far in people's ranks. Like some people will say, oh yeah, I'm not going to get until a second, but there's going to be someone in your league that's going to take him 5th, take him 4th.
Right. Well, Zeke truthers are going to go, oh, well, Dak was hurt. The offensive line was hurt. Like there's going to be people that make excuses for him and whatever. I'm not saying that they're invalid, but I watch like your eyes. The eyes never lie. Mm-hmm. And my eyes tell me that Zeke doesn't look explosive anymore. Like no, he doesn't.
I agree with you. I agree. He doesn't, to me, I don't want a part or a share of Zeke going forward. I just feel like it's not that he's missing a step, but there's just something that's not clicking anymore. And I mean, I know that they lost their quarterback and completely fell to pieces after that happened. I think that they just lost the locker room, and
they can make the playoffs if they win this week and Washington loses.
No, I know. And that's why that division is crazy. But I'm just saying, like, the Cowboys have so much more work to do than just getting back Dak healthy. I feel like there is a lot that still needs to be put back together. It is great that Pollard is looking as good as he is. And, if you're someone that owns Zeke and Dynasty, you definitely need to be stashing Pollard as well. It goes without saying because of his production when Zeke isn't in. But for me, I just would rather not deal with the headache of Zeke going forward.
Zeke has shown me enough signs for concern that I'm with you. Like, if you can, just avoid. I'm avoiding. He's like on my do not draft list. That if there's such a thing that exists, he is qualified for it for 2021.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not going to order Jaeger at the bar. Like, to me, because like that, I just know it's going to be a hangover. Like, it sounds like fun for like 5 seconds, and then you're like, this is a terrible decision. That's how I feel that Zeke is. He's like ordering a shot of Jaeger at a bar.
See, like I don't.
For a second, you're like, that would be fun, and then
Jaeger doesn't do that to me. Like tequila is what does that to me.
Oh no, Jaeger is my blackout juice. Like I just can't do it.
Well, tequila is my fun juice. I know it's fun, and I'll say, okay, I'll just have one, and then before you know it, I'm the guy buying the next tequila round, and I feel like shit, and that's all that needs to be said.
Yeah. Well, hopefully more fun times in 2021 going forward. We'll just leave it at that. 23 234 23 234 23. Just messing me up with that name. Says I lost in fantasy championship by 1,000 points.
That's all.
But I think he's also saying he benched Allen, Kamara, and Dalvin. So I feel like there must have been a reason for that.
Like, were you trying to protest your league or something like that? Why would you bench those two?
I'm sure there was a reason. There's always a good reason. I'm curious about the story. Will Jenkins also says that he had Galladay too. So, ouch.
Yeah, poor Galladay.
Yeah, just brutal. And this one from Tim Bria, last case scenario. Are you taking Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback?
Well, whoever takes him number one, which now is the Jaguars. Yeah. I mean, I think he has a little bit to work with. I know that's not going to maybe be popular. I loved what I saw from James Robinson this year. Hey, Knox, what do you think about Trevor Lawrence? Yeah. That's a thumbs up into the mic.
Oh my gosh. Knox approves of Trevor Lawrence.
Correct. But no, you look at I love Laviska Shenault Jr. I thought that he had a good rookie season considering the circumstances there in Jacksonville. DJ Chark, even Colin Johnson. I thought that he was all right this year. I think that there's some things to work with for that Jaguars offense. And if they're going to be playing from behind a lot, I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to put up decent numbers by default. I mean, he's going to turn the ball over a little bit because he's a rookie and he's going to have to learn. But, I think he'll be good.
Yeah, I think that he has a lot of potential in that system. Like you just said, there's a lot of weapons already there that make for a good addition of a quarterback that just has his skill set. I think that they could mesh really well, like you said, and like we expect from all rookie quarterbacks, they're going to make mistakes. So if you're in a league where, interceptions are at like a -6 points, I've seen a lot of different formats this year, especially that, you're really decimated at points when it comes to throwing interceptions. So if that's something for you, maybe he's not the quarterback for you, but I think that he's someone, especially in dynasty formats, that he's going to go very quickly off the board.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even, in all of that we just mentioned, we didn't even mention that he's actually someone that can offer something as far as like a rushing floor. Like he can scramble. He's got that element to his game too as well. So I like Trevor Lawrence as a late dart throw at quarterback, and maybe like a streaming option. That's where I feel like similar to like Joe Burrow. Yeah. I think they're probably going to have some great games. They're going to have some games where they look like a rookie. So take that for what it's worth.
I mean, and Joe Burrow really quickly. I mean, I know that given the injury that he had, he will likely miss all of next year as well.
You say that, I don't know, but I know what I get it.
It's just the type of injury that you have. There's a lot of parts that have to be regrown back into his knee. It's not just like in Harry Potter where, they accidentally remove all the bones from his arm and he has to regrow his bones. It's almost like that, but if he had magic, it would be better. You probably didn't see that in Harry Potter. I'm alone in that. That's okay.
Yeah, in that reference, I'm sorry. I Star Wars I got, but don't go there.
You're not my nerd person on all things, but that's okay. I have other people.
A lot of things, but just not Harry Potter.
Knox is named after a Harry Potter spell. Means lights out because he's Black Cat.
I know Avada Kedavra. That's the killing spell.
Good job.
Thanks.
Nailed it. Anyways, I don't know.
What is the game? Quidditch or some shit? I remember I had to try to fake like I knew what the hell I was talking about because I was doing they were doing a Harry Potter night at a baseball game that I was calling. And they were like, they're playing Quidditch on the field, Derek. What do you think of that? I'm like, yeah, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
I will not go down the rabbit hole on that because I know I can. But with Joe Burrow and the type of injury that he had, you have to kind of anticipate him being out all next year. And depending on how their season goes, would they even bring him back in, say, week 10 if they could, if the Bengals are not in a situation where they could win?
Where are you getting your timetable?
I'm just saying, like, what I've heard and seen is people saying that he will not be back till the beginning to middle of not this coming season, but the following.
I would say that if you're going to take Joe Burrow, that you take him late. Like, if all things were kosher and he was healthy heading into the year, then I actually have Joe Burrow as potential breakout candidate. But not now. I mean, like I hear the concerns that he may not be ready to start the season. If you're talking about a quarterback, a franchise quarterback that proved a lot with a bad offensive line in front of them.
They need to shore up that offensive line, or that poor boy is going to get killed next time he goes on the field. They have to fix that. They have to. They have a lot of problems, and I don't want to sound biased in that because obviously I'm a Steelers fan, but they have to protect the quarterback at the very base because Joe Mixon has been struggling forever because they don't have an offensive line.
Joe Burrow is special. Joe Mixon is quasi special. He's close. He's right there as naturally gifted as any running back in the league. The Bengals have something brewing there. T. Higgins had a great rookie year, despite, even
Tyler Boyd was fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with A.J. Green. I'm assuming they're going to let A.J. Green walk, but, you still have T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and a lot of talent at the skill position spots. The point is, Joe Burrow, I'm not counting on a breakout season from him, given that he's questionable to even be ready for the start of the upcoming season. But I'll tell you this, when I watch him play, he's that dude. To me, he's got that it factor, and it translated from LSU. He wasn't a one-hit wonder in 2019 with the Tigers. Mm-hmm. He was the real deal to me, and it translated to the field. I'm really, 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 really hoping that has a full recovery. Let's put it that way.
No, I hope so too, because I agree. I think he's a great talent. Seeing all of these, young quarterbacks in my division does, they're going to have to think about doing something with Ben, because I don't like the quarterbacks behind him now, and we're going to see one of them tomorrow.
The Steelers need to do something at quarterback moving forward.
They do. They need to. I mean, if they need to make a trade or make a move, I don't know if it's this season to pull a rookie, but they need to get something as a bright spot for the future to look forward to.
Well, I'm going to ask a question, and I don't want to make this just strictly Steelers talk, but I mean, it does involve Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson and potentially Juju Smith-Schuster if they keep him around. What about Sam Darnold? What about Jameis Winston? What about Cam Newton? What about because if the Jets draft Justin Fields at number 2 overall, I mean, what are the thoughts about Sam Darnold? Do we really feel like he is a failure as a top flight quarterback prospect, or was he more a victim of his circumstances?
As a Steelers fan, I want to say he might be a victim of his circumstances, but I don't want to test them out on my team. I don't know. Maybe. I mean,
you have a Super Bowl ready team. You just need that one piece. And Ben could still possibly be that, because by the way, Sam, I thought that he responded very well in that Colts game after the disaster that was the Bengals game.
Yeah, no, I was really proud of what ended up being put together in that Colts game. Obviously, the first half was very rough and brutal, but I think that they really got it together. And honestly, I think ultimately that's the players. Yes, they can get it together, but that is on Mike Tomlin, and he is a fantastic coach, and he can rally his troops when he needs to. He can really, kick them where they need to be kicked, and get the best out of his players. That being said, as well, could Mike Tomlin be the right coach for someone like Sam Darnold, who I feel like his confidence must just be completely shattered just as a quarterback? I feel like he has not been given what he needs to be successful. Could he be successful if given all the weapons that the Steelers have? Maybe. I think so. But, like you said, has he fallen that far that people don't want to give him that chance? And for me, I'm kind of scared to give him that chance with my Steelers.
Well, if anything, I'm actually encouraged from how the Jets are finishing the season. Sure. If you're a Sam Darnold truther, right? If you're if you're a believer in Sam Darnold, they should have beat the Raiders. Mm-hmm. They did beat, the Cleveland Browns? I mean, this football team has played quality ball down the stretch, and they have some things to work with. I just think that, I don't know if I see the Jets passing on Justin Fields after what he just did. But of course, we don't want recency bias to influence us too much. But the point being, I'm looking at what the options are for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward, because Ben Roethlisberger. Can I raise my hand? I want to ask you: do you think they should sit Ben in Week 17? He just had probably his best game of this, arguably the whole season, but the offense has been struggling, and you're sitting Ben in Week 17. Is that the right call?
Is that the right call? I mean, I want the Steelers to win this week. I absolutely 110% want them to win. I do not want us to lose to the Browns. So I don't think this is a situation that they should. I think that the nervousness with Ben is the way that the Steelers play the Browns, the way that we play these divisional matchups is so brutal and so tough. And they just want a healthy Ben for the playoffs. Ultimately, that's what they want. And I get it. Would I rather Ben play and, and us 100% win? Yes, but at the same time, I understand it. Ben's ankles, I feel like, are made of paper sometimes. Like, he gets tackled wrong and he's limping the rest of the game. He'll play, but he's limping the rest of the game. I would rather have a healthy Ben. And I think they're also looking at the fact that the last time that they played each other, the Steelers won handsomely. So I think they're just hoping that the Browns fall apart in this one, so it doesn't have to be such a tough game. But I don't think that it's going to fall apart. I think the Browns are going to try and make a statement and win.
Well, the Browns need to win to secure a playoff spot.
They do.
Wouldn't that be the most Browns thing to do when the playoff format expands and they have their first winning season in God knows how long, and they still miss the playoffs? So, I'm point being, I get that you want to rest a veteran quarterback when there's not a ton to play for, not much of an advantage. But I think the offense has been so erratic, in particular the passing game, and you finally had some bright, some shining moments against a playoff caliber team in the Indianapolis Colts. I would want to play them at least for a half. Like, give them some reps. Don't keep the momentum, keep that, build on that. Don't yank them and have him sit down. He really hasn't earned a day off, in my opinion. I get he's got 2 Super Bowl rings and all that shit. Whatever, but anyway.
I get it. No,
anyway.
I want him to play too. But let's move on to a couple more of these, and then we'll wrap up.
We got to talk about the Mandalorian. We got to.
Well, I feel like we need a separate show to talk about the Mandalorian.
Oh,
we do.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that.
We need to set up a separate show because we've already got an hour. We got to hype this up different. We got to, I know. We have a lot to talk about.
Some people may have tuned in. We talked about the Mandalorian in our teas, but anyway.
Well, if we can get to it,
Continue.
Victor J says, how high do you rank Jonathan Taylor in redraft next season? We have a similar question from Shades721. Do you think Jonathan Taylor is drafted in round 1 next year?
No.
I don't see him going in the first round.
I mean, we got to see how the offseason plays out, but I'm not drafting Jonathan Taylor. I mean, do I love how he's played in the last month? Yeah, I do. And do I think he has the talent to be a top 10 running back? Of course I do. Mm-hmm. But I'm not that bullish. I've seen too many games where he's a victim of a running back by committee to trust him.
Yeah. No,
first round draft capital.
I don't see him as first round draft capital. I think he is going to go sooner. Late second round, sure. I could see that. But no, I don't think he's first round. But yeah, I am very encouraged by what we were able to see at the end of this season with him. But again, with Marlon Mack, he's going to be back healthy next year. So,
well, I mean, contract wise, we'll see what happens with Marlon.
We'll see. I mean, contracts aside, we'll see how things shake out. But I think he's, got a bright future. I'm looking forward to seeing him next year too. This one from Tim Bria. He says, I think my top 5 next year are CMC, Dalvin, Henry, Adams, and Kamara. Not in that order necessarily. Tell me if I missed anyone.
Is there any concern about Alvin Kamara without Drew Brees?
Yes.
I mean, we don't know if Taysom Hill is going to be the guy, right?
No, we don't. We don't know if it's going to be him or
will be. Personally, I don't think he will be, but
no.
I think there's a little bit of concern that he is a bona fide top 5 fantasy option without Drew Brees just dinking it to him. That's my biggest concern.
Yeah. No, I think that however things fall with Drew Brees, I think it could pull Kamara out of the top 5 for me. But as of right now, I think that those are a fine top 5.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. If I were to replace Kamara with someone, I'm still a huge believer in Taekwon Barkley. I really am. I am. I don't want to be an apologist for Saquon, but I still believe it. Oh yeah. What's going on? What did he just tell you?
Oregon 25, Iowa State 10.
Nice.
Sorry, guys. My phone is always blowing up with ESPN notifications. It's so bad. I have to turn off my notifications on my other devices because, you have your iPad synced to your phone. At work, I use my iPad to share screen when we're doing presentations. And I'll be in the middle of talking and presenting, and then all of a sudden at the top, you just see this ticker drop down, ESPN, and then it moves, ESPN, sleeper bot, and then all these other things are jumping in.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get it out of the screen. Everyone's like, Sam, really? I'm like, I'm sorry. It's not my fault. I just need the news. You guys knew I liked sports when you hired me. This one, I'm unfortunately not going to pronounce this name correctly. However, this one is the one regarding MLS. The MLS league has become quite popular in the United States in recent years, and there is news that Lionel Messi is set to sign soon with one of the teams. That'd be cool.
Yeah, wrong football for this football discussion, my friend. But no. I mean, of course, if you get Lionel Messi, playing soccer here in the States, then cool. But until it happens, it doesn't happen. And I'm also just not in a major league soccer.
Are we recording tomorrow morning, by the way? Because I'm sure that Bucks would be super interested because he's our resident soccer guy.
He's our resident soccer guy. I don't know if we're recording tomorrow. I haven't heard from Bucks. I haven't heard from Levy. I know that they are probably trying to still lick their wounds from their respective fantasy football seasons. I know that Buckey won one of the Listeners League ones, so congratulations, the Grand Championship.
Yes.
The old Buck, but yeah, we have not confirmed whether or not we were recording tomorrow. So
no. So hopefully we will get that information to you guys ASAP. This last one from Tim Bria, who really wants to know what our top 10 are. Who do you think your top 10 are for next year? I'm going to start writing these down because...
Well, there's consistency, and then there's just off the top of my head gut feeling. So
yeah.
If I'm going straight off my gut feeling from this year, I am going CMC. I'm going Dalvin Cook. I am going Taekwon Barkley. I am going Derrick Henry. Devontae Adams definitely cracks that list.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins definitely cracks that list. And then it gets real interesting. Kamara.
Yeah.
Minutes at, what is it, 7?
Yeah, so that's 1, 2, 3.
Then it gets a little bit interesting, too, when it comes to potential league format. Like, a couple quarterbacks make the list if it's super flex. If not,
let's say it's not super flex for now.
Okay, say it's not super flex. Then I'm not taking a quarterback in the first round. Too much depth there. If it's a one quarterback league. And
does Kelsey crack your top 10, or is he top 12 if you're in a 12-team format? Because for me, Tyreek Hill has to be in my top 10.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's in a 10-team league, Kelsey does crack my top 10 at the very end, but otherwise, no. Running back wise, because running back is really where I like to build most of my teams. There's a conversation to be had about a good handful of guys. Joe Mixon's in that conversation still for me. I know that that's probably not a popular one, but Mixon is still in that conversation for me. Aaron Jones is still in that.
James Robinson worked his way into top consideration.
He's worked his way into consideration as well. James Robinson, Antonio Gibson, those guys. I mean, I don't want to go as far as Jonathan Taylor. I feel like Taylor has been someone that has driven me nuts all damn season.
Nick Chubb.
Chubb is definitely up there.
Now, for someone like Michael Thomas, how has he fallen from grace? Has he dropped out of your first round?
Because, I mean, if Drew Brees isn't the quarterback, then there's a bit of uncertainty. Austin Eckler is still someone that is up there for me. Personally, I'm a believer in Austin Eckler. So,
and then with David Montgomery's success, do you see him? Because I feel like he's been that kind of second round guy for quite a while. And even this year, you're like, okay, I guess I'll take Montgomery. But he really, took another step forward this year for me. So is he someone that could work his way into top 12?
Me personally, not for me. Even though what the back half of his season suggests that he probably could make a run at that. But I don't have David Montgomery that high.
Will Jenkins throwing Josh Jacobs in the mix too there.
Yeah, that's the guy that I knew someone was slipping my mind.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of players that are going to slip our minds. We're, coming
off the top of my head, Miles Sanders is worth bringing up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good players, a lot of good running backs to consider. I mean, J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins
had a great finish to the year, and that running attack, holy shit! It feels like they run like a different variation of the same play, like 30 times a game. So Tim, to best answer this and to kind of wrap it up, I need more time to think about it, my man. So
we need time to process.
I need a little bit of time to come up with a proper top 10 because there are a ton. Because when it comes to ranking some of these guys, you're splitting hairs. Like you really are. You're splitting hairs. You're looking at touches per game. You're looking at efficiency. You're looking at targets. You're all that stuff. And I just don't have that all logged in here. It takes time to kind of look at it.
No, we need time to process. I'm gonna finish this donut that I started. Finish some coffee. Work on some forward thinking for 2021, and maybe plan on working out tomorrow because I just want to eat a donut. But that's okay. And then last one from Tim. Thoughts on the Eagles quarterback situation?
I think it's Jalen Hurts' job. Personally, I mean, look, man. Like Carson Wentz had his opportunity and he played like shit. He's been outplayed by Jalen Hurts. I'm sick of the excuses, man. He's a 6-figure quarterback. I mean, the franchise committed to him for the future. And if he got threatened by the fact that the Eagles took a quarterback in the second round and he couldn't handle that, and he got outplayed by him too, man. I mean, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Everywhere Jalen Hurts is gone, he wins. Yeah, I think it's Jalen Hurts' job. That's my thoughts on the Eagles quarterback situation.
I agree. Hopefully better days ahead for Wentz. I think maybe a change of scenery is necessary for him.
Steeler.
Maybe. I would rather have someone a little bit younger. If we're going to change it up, just give me that youth. And then we'll be all right. But then Will throwing this in there, going back to the top 10 conversation, all the running backs except for the Steelers. Thanks for that, Will.
Ouchie.
So mean.
Don't be mean.
Better things ahead. It's going to be awesome. All right. Well, thanks, guys, so much for tuning in. I know that Tate and I mentioned we wanted to talk Mandalorian, but honestly, I would love to have just an entire Star Wars show. We'll change the banner. We'll go full Star Wars out, and we will just rant on Mandalorian, all things Star Wars, and all the series to come this next year. Because I know for myself and you, we're both very excited for all the new content coming out on Disney Plus when it comes to Star Wars world.
Yes, a lot to discuss, a lot that I took notes for that I'm not going to be able to even talk about. It's fine.
We had a lot of great questions about next year that we didn't anticipate. I thought we were going to have so much dead time to talk Mandalorian, but people are still talking football. So maybe next weekend, you and I can just full on focus on all things Star Wars. I will probably go through and rewatch all the Star Wars this week because I can. That's how I like to live my life. And also jump back in and rewatch that last episode of Mandalorian that I know you and I both got wicked psyched about.
Whoa. Yeah.
Such a good episode. Guys, tune in for that next week. And if you have not watched any of those things and you want to, don't tune in because it will be full of spoilers. I guarantee you that. I'll have to make a whole new lower third here that just says there are spoilers this whole show. So no one gets mad.
we could actually just come up with a little video thing that says spoilers about to come and then just get the hell out of here. Yeah,
exactly. And we'll say it 5 more times and then we'll just talk Star Wars the entire time. So definitely down for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please hit like, hit subscribe. We really appreciate it. If you want to follow Tate, he's at dtater4 on all forms of social. I am at Samantha R. Holt on Twitter and at Sam_awesome on Instagram. Please tune in next week. And when you hit subscribe, you will not miss another episode of the Fantasy Debate or any fantasy focused shows. Thanks, guys.